Hello, I'm Margaret Metcalfe. I'd like to offer you one small reflection that's been part of my lockdown experience. When lockdown began, I was reading the book of Proverbs, and on the Sunday after the lockdown announcement, I'd got to chapter 9. Wisdom has built her house. She has hewn her 7 pillars. She has slaughtered her animals. She has mixed her wine. She has also set her table. She sent out her servant girls. She calls from the highest places in the town. You that are simple, turn in here. To those without sense she says, Come, eat of my bread and drink of the wine I have mixed. Lay aside immaturity and live and walk in the way of insight. I was really struck by verse 5. Come, eat of my bread and drink of the wine I have mixed. Clearly, what was in the minds of the writers and compilers of Proverbs isn't what we see as Christians. For as Christians, when we hear of bread and wine, our minds go to the communion. And I thought, it's the Sunday after lockdown. How do I understand an invitation to share bread and wine, to be with others, taking communion for our understandings? And that set me thinking. The book of Proverbs is very strong on readers gaining wisdom. And in chapter 1, verse 3, wisdom is associated with righteousness, justice, and equity. What we might call ethical living. The character of wisdom through the book of Proverbs is complex and diverse and interesting. And in chapter 8, we find that she was with God at the beginning, and that it says, I was daily his delight, rejoicing before him always. The opportunity to gather, to celebrate, is not possible. And as I prayed and reflected, I thought, let's look at those other verses, because in this time I can live in a house and I can set my table. I can have a meal. How do I understand that? So now and then, as I've been through these weeks, I've reflected on my shopping and cooking and eating, and how I can do these in a way that works for justice, righteousness and equity. I've also thought about trying to find delight more and to enjoy the tastes and textures of the food I'm eating. And then thinking about the communion aspect of being with, well, we know that we cannot be separated from God, whether we feel any sense of presence or not. For many of us, these are very demanding days of separation from others. I've tried to counter that by having some Skype dinners, and I've found those a place of enjoyment. And I've also been watching the birds on the bird table, and so I've been in communion with the birds as they've eaten as well. It's not that I'm always full of delight and rejoicing. That's not how it is. These are hard days. But I have appreciated seeing communion as meal and meal as communion. Lovely God, in the varied experiences of these days and weeks, breathe in us your wisdom to sustain us in each moment. Amen.